Good morning, everyone. Hi, for those who are sitting that side. My name is Nitesh. I'm from Unicom. Thanks for coming on time, and I'm sure you are the guys who have avoided the traffic. You have beaten the traffic. So, welcome everyone. Good morning, and we have about 350 delegates who will be coming for the keynote. I'd like to start the day by thanking our sponsors, KPMG, for being a knowledge partner and helping us to envisage the futuristic program on software testing. I'd like to also sponsor IBM International Business Machine. I'd like to thank Indian Testing Board, Verity Software, SAP, and Tech Mahindra for helping us to organize event of this scale. So as and when people are pouring in, I'll not take much time, but I'd like to, just announce some of the highlights that we have for the conference. So we have some exciting prizes to be won throughout the day. So do find a time to visit some of the stalls. You have some vouchers and some excellent prizes in the form of software testing books or agile books to be won. So do make the time. There's a lot of time for interaction, so we have extended the tea coffee break as well as lunch break where you have more time to interact among yourselves. So make use of that time. On that note, I like to present Mr. Rex Black. A warm round of applause for him. So he'll be talking about testers of 2015 and beyond. So Rex, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. How are you all doing? Good to be back here in India. I haven't been here for a couple of years, so it's a pleasure to get to this side of the world again. As Nitesh said, I'm going to talk this morning about some things that you can do to be ready for the future. As the cliche goes, thank you. As the cliche goes, there's no constant but change, and so things are changing in the tech world, and that will, of course, affect your career as a tester. So let's look at that. Look at some trends that you'll need to be aware of. So I've listed a few here that I want to address. Yeah, let's see. Do we got a laser beam here? Yep, sure enough. So virtualization, cloud computing is one thing that's happening. Agile methods, obviously, something that I'm sure most of you are aware of. Test configurations, explosion in the number of configurations that we need to cover in our testing. Large volumes of production data, the whole big data movement that I'm sure that many of you have heard about. Open source testing tools. What can these do for us? Certification of testers. As you can see, the Indian Testing Board is one of the sponsors here, so this is a major trend. And just generally ongoing uncertainty that started in 2008 and continues to this day. So I think that these trends mean that testing and quality will continue to be very important and in fact will grow in importance. And as we go through this, I'll try to illustrate why I think that. Very important that as a professional tester that you stay current with these trends. You can't just sit back and say, I have good skills, I have a great degree from a great university, and therefore I don't have to worry about staying on top of these things. Change is happening, change is rapid, and it will affect your career. So let's look at that. So virtualization and cloud computing. This is has both potential benefits and also challenges that it creates for us. So when servers and other hardware can be reconfigured rapidly, the number of virtual servers running on any platform can change very quickly. This can result in difficulties in knowing what exactly the production environment is going to look like. Right? You can understand from a software perspective what the production environment is going to look like, but in terms of the specific amount of load that will be happening on specific hardware elements, harder to anticipate in a virtualized world. It could change, it can evolve, and if you're doing an application that's going to run in the cloud, your ability to have direct control over that is going to be very limited, right? So this can create some complications for us when we're trying to plan testing, especially if you're thinking about things that are very much hardware dependent, compatibility testing, reliability testing, load testing, performance testing, scalability tests, all of these things that are very much influenced by the hardware environment in which they operate. So you have to think very carefully about what can we actually know for sure about those environments. Okay? So complicates our planning on the one hand. On the other hand, it makes it easy to spin up test environments, to generate test environments. Right? You can run tests in a cloud environment fairly quickly, decommission that cloud environment, whereas 10, 15 years ago, if you wanted to create an environment of that scale, you would have to spend tens of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands or more dollars to try to purchase all the hardware. And then, of course, you'd have to have the human capital to administer that environment. Now, all of that can effectively be outsourced into a cloud situation if you know how to take advantage of it. So it's kind of an interesting balance here. On the one hand, complicating the planning of testing and the design of test environments, and on the other hand, making it much more easy and affordable to create test environments for various purposes, short-term and long-term. So it's important that as test professionals that we think about the implications here. Can you spin up a production-like environment using a cloud provider and test in that environment? The traditional objection to doing performance and reliability testing in production-like environments was that's going to cost too much. Maybe so, maybe not, right? The availability of the cloud resources changes that equation, something that you need to revisit. You have to think about background loads. If the hardware is being shared when you're planning your test environments, how are the background loads going to affect that? That's the downside of the virtualization. If environments are going to be reconfigured on the fly via virtualization, have you included that in your test plans and in your test cases, your test scenarios? Because it will happen. Right? It's going to happen in a virtualized environment. And if you've not tested for that, you may have some risk about how that affects your software and how it performs and behaves. Okay, Agile. Just a quick show of hands here. How many of you are working on a project or in an organization that's doing Agile? Wow. So I'd say that's about two-thirds to three-quarters. Okay, now of course if I'd asked that question 5 years ago, probably would have been a different view in here. A lot of hands I would guess, but not as many. 10 years ago, certainly 15 years ago, there'd be a lot of you going, Agile? What's that? Yeah, I'm Agile. I haven't fallen down in months. Right? So all of a sudden there's this Agile thing that has now become very prevalent. This Agile methods have both challenges and opportunities that they create for testers. Now, I'm not going to try to go through in detail. I did a couple webinars, one on the challenges and one on the opportunities. So if you're interested and want to listen to those, you can find them. They're out on the RBCS website, on the digital library. They're available for free. They're recorded there. But for those of you, and I mean, many of you have worked on Agile projects, so you know that it can create some challenges, the rapidity of change, how to try to fit, say if you're in a regulatory type of situation, avionics, healthcare, et cetera, how to try to fit those regulatory requirements into the Agile world. how to deal with situations when the organization says we're agile, but the reality is that just means no process and no documentation. Some of you probably lived through that. So that's the downside. And then there's the upside of, Agile has made it cool for programmers to talk about unit testing. Right, imagine that, okay? If you've been in this field for 10 or 15 years, this is something that you probably struggled with and said, how do I get the developers to care about the quality of the code? How do I get them to stop thinking that they can just throw whatever compiles over the wall into testing and then it's my problem to deal with all the bugs? Properly run Agile projects and you start to see more and more the developers care very much about the quality of their code and use tools to do automated unit testing of it. They look at things like code coverage and so forth. So that can't help but make our lives easier, right? So it's important to recognize that Agile is not one thing, it's many things. I did a couple tutorials this week before this morning and had a chance to talk to some practitioners in depth, and most of them were working on projects that were either Agile or contained a significant Agile element, but not a single pair of those projects was the same.